Hi folks, I'm making this video because I wanted to talk about some of the things that happened over the weekend. And while I'm not going to turn this vlog into a personal diary, certain things that have happened should be discussed, right? Certain events, certain attacks from the perpetrators need to be discussed because it pertains to organized stalking. And it gives a good example of what, the minds of the perpetrators and the organizers behind this, the type of attacks they wage. Um, aside from posting actual footage, which I don't have today, unfortunately. And obviously, if I get actual footage from the perpetrators, I'm going to post it because we need proof. And that's something that, we're without it, who's going to believe us, right? And I think we've all been through this, haven't we? Where we'll try to explain to someone what's happening, and then there's some guy standing behind the person, smirking and shaking his head and trying to discredit us, right? Because we don't have proof, right? If I say, well, my camera shut off, he's smirking, no. On the other hand, when we try to get evidence, they attack us for that too, right? They say, oh, you're filming, you shouldn't be filming, and on and on. They try to make us the bad guys. The way I see it, they're going to make us the bad guys no matter what we do or don't do, so we may as well try to get footage. We may as well try to get evidence of what they do. Just be careful. Just be careful when you do it so that you don't give them an opportunity to twist it back onto you, which they're always looking for. Anyway, I'm just going to read what I wrote about some of the things that happened this weekend. Here I go. This weekend's main event was the reason I record when I'm out. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn airplane mode on. For those who don't know, airplane mode blocks signals to and from your cell phone. Technically, if airplane mode is on, it should not be possible for someone to access your device. Though, with new technology, it might be. I don't know. I say this because a few months ago, I woke up to find that someone had turned on the recorder app in my phone. It had been on for maybe 13 minutes. They must have turned it on as soon as I woke up, as I usually check my phone shortly after. Now, they don't need to use that app in order to record me in private. This they have proven time and time again. They did this just so that when I got up and looked at my phone, I would know that they had tampered with it, right? And plus, since I had turned airplane mode on the night before, it would drive me crazy trying to find out how they did it. How did they get in? Anyway, on Friday I forgot and I didn't have it on. Everything from the first part of the day recorded, though there were no major events until the final stop before I went home. And of course, the only thing that didn't record were the events that took place at that final stop. Someone turned the camera off right before I walked in. That's when it stopped recording. And the other videos where I was able to capture footage, I had airplane mode on, which I'm guessing made it harder for them to access my phone and turn the camera off. So that's just a tip for targets. You could try leaving airplane mode on and always leave Bluetooth off, so they can't connect other devices to your phone or tablet or whatever you're using. So Friday, every time the organized stalkers make it seem as if the mob harassment is stopped or that maybe they're giving me some time off, it's really just a fake out. Later, they will make up for every minute that they let me relax. Friday was no different. I was out for a few hours, the first half of which were uneventful. For a moment, I let myself entertain the notion that maybe they've decided to take a step back, tone down the attack, give me one day off. I allowed myself a sigh of relief, a moment of delusion. It lasted until I stepped into the last location on my to-do list. So I wanted to turn my second cellular phone line back on. This is the last stop, and this is probably what they were trying to stop me from doing. I don't know. A lot of people remember probably from my first video that I had ended up, someone stole my phone, and there was a lot of chaos that followed after that. I went to the phone company and I had them actually put a hold on the line, and I could have just gotten a new phone, whatever. It was probably protected, but I wanted the line stopped because I was afraid they would access the phone line and so on. Well, so recently I wanted to turn it back on. So I had gone on Friday to the phone company where I have, coverage. And I went, first of all, to pay my other bill, but second of all, to find out what it would take to turn the line back on. And I didn't turn it back on Friday. I did that on Saturday, but we'll get to that. So anyway, yeah, that's what I went to do. Keep in mind, it was my safe phone that I ended up turning off. This is the phone that I had purchased when I found out that someone had accessed my network, my personal at-home network, and I had connected my main phone to that network all the time. It was so, you know, all kinds of other devices I found on that network, including Linux. So you know, when I found out that my devices were compromised, I got a new phone that wouldn't have been tampered with, and so and a new phone line. So anyway, that's the one that I had shut off, and that's the one that I had tried to turn back on. I went to ask them about it on Saturday, along with paying my other bill. Anyway, I won't give the name of the business or the location. I'm sorry, on Friday. On Friday, I went to ask them about it and to pay the other bill. On Saturday, I actually turned it on. But this event that took place was on Friday. So I won't give the name of the business or the location. Only know that it is small, one room, a lobby and a front desk with a few employees there to help people. Everyone must wait in one single line for their turn, like a typical cellular store. There were already people waiting in line as I walked in. The man I stood behind told me he had been waiting there for over an hour. I looked at the two employees at the desk and noticed that one of them was helping a man that I've seen before. He is Russian or Ukrainian, and he always holds up the line. Another man was taken by the second. Another man was taken by the second employee, and he took even longer, stalling, dropping things, fiddling through his stuff, asking questions over and over again, or the same question over and over again, and then pretending he didn't understand the answer. Now, that guy had an American English accent, and it was perfect, so there was no language barrier. He understood what was being said to him. Anyway, at least he understood the language. He acted like he didn't understand what the person was saying. The man who came in after me finally decided to leave. He just couldn't wait any longer. Nice guy. I almost feel bad, as if this is my fault. Then it happened. A woman wheeled a man into the business. She was pushing his wheelchair, and they both got behind me. I didn't pay much attention until they began reading my shirt out loud. I was wearing an anti-organized stalking shirt. Now, occasionally, I'll wear a shirt that, it's an anti-organized stalking shirt, and a lot of times I'll actually have a pretty good conversation with people. Occasionally someone will stop me, and they'll be really nice about it. They'll question, no issues, whatever. And that's what I want. I want to spread the word. Other times, though, you get perpetrators, who just want to mess with you. And this was one of those days. I was going to be messed with, right? At first, they seemed friendly. They both said that they liked the shirt and agreed with it. The woman even asked where I got it. We laughed a little, and then I turned back around to face the front. From that point on, the woman continued to push the man in his wheelchair right into my back legs over and over again. Every time she did it, I would inch forward a little, and sometimes I was actually pushed out of line. It was into the other area. Maybe that's why they did it, to just push us all out of line. I don't know. And the guy in front of me, too, he even had to move forward because I was moving forward. It was crazy. And finally, about 20 minutes later, we were still in line. She slammed me pretty hard, and only then did she apologize. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, so as I turned around to face the front, after we had finished, chatting about my shirt, which, remember, they claimed to agree with, they began having a conversation about someone with heart problems who thought he was having a heart attack but was wrong. They were really bad-mouthing this person, calling him an idiot and so on. They repeated some of the events that took place in my own life not too long ago. And just to backtrack a little and explain that, I don't remember exactly how long ago it was. It was maybe 2 months ago, 3. I don't remember. It was my sense of time is completely off. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every year, it all kind of melts into each other. So this happened a while ago. It happened, let me see. It happened not too long, maybe a month and a half or 2 before I had the surgery. And the surgery was due to a completely unrelated issue. So before that, I had called for an ambulance because my heart was racing, skipping beats, beating out of rhythm. And when I took my blood pressure using an at-home monitor, it was insanely high. And so was my pulse. Now, I had been suffering from a migraine for days and was living off Excedrin, which has caffeine. I didn't take more than the recommended dose, but it might have been too much given that I had a coffee that day as well. They kept me at the hospital for a few hours on a heart monitor. They gave me blood pressure medication and something for the headache, for the migraine, and then sent me home once my blood pressure went down. No one told me at the time that there was an abnormality with my ECG, but maybe they assumed, and hopefully they were correct, that it was all the caffeine and stress. It was due to the caffeine and stress. I didn't find out about the abnormality until I logged into my chart a few weeks later, though I have to assume if they thought it was serious, they would have told me at the hospital. Anyway, they sent me home, and I assumed and still do that everything was fine. So back to Friday. Men and women behind me started talking about quote-unquote idiots who think they're having a heart attack when they aren't. They even included in their little skit certain things that I said to the paramedics when they had gotten here at this apartment. It's things that I said to them inside this apartment. They went on and on like that until I turned around to smile at them. I kept my cool, even though the back of my legs were already starting to hurt from the woman repeatedly pushing the wheelchair into me, and I was in no mood for further provocations. And these kind of provocations are them just letting us know, they do. I think they do this to all targets. They let us know that they can hear us in private. And for a while I thought that, well, they might have hacked the microphone in my computer, and that's why I rebooted and redid all of my computers and refreshed. But now I know it's they don't need to do that. They have better technology than that. Anyway, then they started talking about leukemia and other forms of bone cancer, and how it starts with painful bones and joints, or something. Another weird coincidence, given that for the last few days, my mother has been complaining about her bones hurting. She said that she told the doctor, but her doctor gave her no response, and this has really been bothering her. So, yeah, just another coincidence that they brought up something that we're discussing at home. They're just letting us know that, they can hear us in private. And you get where this is going, right? This is how these sick animals operate. Though I don't know if these two perpetrators had any knowledge of the meaning behind what they were saying. They could have just been repeating the lines they were told to repeat by the organizers. But the organizers want us to know that we're being listened to in private by repeating things that we or someone else have said in private. Then they initiated a conversation with me. Then the woman started talking about how terrible our government is, and she started talking about the police state and how she knows all about it, and she's known about it for years, and on she went. She was really boasting about how much she knows about it. And of course, she was right about that part. I agreed with her, and I decided to throw in that, yes, we're heading toward an Orwellian-type dystopia, a police state where average citizens have no privacy. And without privacy, we have no freedom. She told me that she knows exactly what I'm talking about, that she's known this for years but doesn't care. She said that she has God, and that's all that matters. Then she repeated something that my mother said all the time. She said something like, we're in the end times now. This is only going to get worse. You might not believe it, but that's on you. I know we're in the end times now. God is in control. That's the gist of what she said. Not only is this what my mother always says, my mom had said that to me that morning as well. My mom said, quote, don't forget to pray. We're in the end times now. This is only going to get worse. You might not believe it, but that's on you. I know we're in the end times. God is in control. So the woman left out, I think, the don't forget to pray part. I don't remember exactly, but she repeated again what my mother said in private, and what I always just kind of walk away from. We might be in the end times, we might not, but look, 2,000 years ago they thought they were in the end times, so we'll see. Anyway, they do this a lot. They have people repeat things that I or someone I know has said in private. So then both the man and the woman stared at me, waiting for a reaction. I responded by saying that it's terrible what's happening and that people should be made aware of the fact that there is an element of our government, or maybe a corrupt agency outside our government, that is attempting to subdue and control the population. That maybe if people were made aware of what is taking place, and I didn't mean the biblical apocalypse, though that could be the case too, they might be less likely to go along with it, right? In fact, these stalking campaigns should be spoken about. People need to know what they are, so they are not fooled into joining into these group mobs. The woman then looked at me and in a disbelieving tone questioned me, what's going on? Who's stalking? Who's harassing? Like she didn't believe any of this. Now, keep in mind, she had agreed with me regarding my anti-organized stalking, sure, right? Initially, yet now she's acting like she doesn't know anything about it. What did she think she was agreeing with? Okay, yeah. So I started telling her, I started telling her what little I could because she was already, it was clear this conversation was not going to go well. But I did because there were other people there too, and I figured, well, they can hear something too. And she was trying to at that point, she did a complete flip. She initially began, she started with agreement and acting like she knew all about this and that it was true. And now she's trying to discredit it. So I told her about the people who sometimes walk by me and make nasty comments under their breaths. And I was going to say more, but she wouldn't let me stop, She said, what people? And she's like she couldn't believe it. Like, what have we just been talking about all this time, right? So I said, I don't know who they are. Because could be the government, could be something else, a vigilante group, who knows? She claimed that it's probably nothing, certainly nothing to worry about. I told her that when they also gain access to your private networks and screw with your accounts and even follow you around in person, defaming you to the point where they have security called on you, it is definitely something to worry about. And for those who might say, oh, well, if I'm wearing a political shirt that I'm, then I brought it on myself. No, it happens even when I'm wearing normal street clothing, okay? So don't start that. And by now, I know these little monsters, these animals, I know their attacks, I know the way they think. One of their methods is to just twist it right back onto the target, onto the victims, and make it seem like it's that person's fault. I'm wearing, I wear the shirt because I'm typically not allowed to speak, right? I'm never allowed to defend, I'm never allowed to explain myself, so I wear the shirt. That's my defense. That's my way of explaining myself. So if someone tries to defame me again, which they always do, read my shirt. Okay, at least someone might go and look up organized stalking or whatever term we use. Okay, and this is what they don't want us to do. They don't want us to spread the word, and when we try to, they find a way to twist that against us too. And so then she looked at me with with a little bit of concern. She looked a little concerned, like she didn't like she didn't understand what was happening, right? And then she said, well, you don't know it's the government. It might not be. I said, that's right. I don't know who it is. She seemed to be thrown off a bit, since gaining access to someone else's private networks and their accounts and, their phones and everything else and tampering with their devices is criminal. A lot of these perpetrators refuse to admit that the people they're working for would do such a thing. Hang on, sorry. They want to believe that the target is guilty of something, which is the only way some of these perpetrators can justify what they're doing to the target. And not just what they're currently doing, what they've done, what they are doing, and what they plan on doing in the future. For this reason, many of the lower intellect perpetrators who know little about psychology will begin to look for reasons to deem the target guilty. So when the organizers behind this psychological operation give the perpetrators a false report on the target, the perpetrators latch onto it without question. This is what they want because it makes what they're doing okay, at least in their own deluded mind. They will also just continue to refuse to accept that actual crimes are being committed against the target, or they'll find a way to justify it, okay? They'll block out whatever gets in the way of their own self-justification. I didn't say that to her, but I should have. She then went on to claim that, she then went on to claim that no one, especially the government, would be after us if we didn't do anything wrong. Yikes. Yes, there are still people in the world who believe this. This woman, later in the conversation, called other people sheeple. So on one hand, she acted like she knew what was taking place. She boasted on and on about the police state and the corrupt government and how God is going to protect her from it. And then she turns right around and denies all of it, okay, acting like, it's not happening. Again, I have to say, if she was a normal person, I would think she was a complete moron. What did she think she was agreeing with initially? But she's not a normal person. She's a perpetrator. So it was all set up. This is the type of insane, round and round, almost demented conversation perpetrators engage in with targets. It's pointless. It wears you down. It might even prevent you from even trying to have another conversation with someone about this topic, which is exactly what the perpetrators want, to stop the target from speaking up. I have to wonder, let's see. All right. And again, I have to wonder if she really is this stupid or if she's just pretending. Is she just reciting the lines that she's given by the organizers behind this? who are going to make damn sure that everything said and done to the target will get the most volatile response out of the target. And they know I hate projection, so that's what they're going to do. I kept my cool, though. I reminded her of what the FBI did to human rights activists during the civil rights era, and she cut me off, exclaiming that she knows what happens and that it was horrible. I tried to remind her that she said, but she said that the government wouldn't do such a thing. And then I asked her what she thought that the civil rights activists did wrong. And and with a look of shock on her face, she proclaimed, well, nothing at all. And so I responded to her by saying, then the government or other agencies approved of by the government would indeed go after people who haven't done anything wrong, wouldn't they? And again, in a very, but of course, kind of way, she responded with something like, well, yes, they would. We know this. I've known this all along. By that point, I wanted to hit myself in the head with the hardest object available. It was pointless, as you can see. She then said that people who keep their head down and mouth shut are left alone. So finally, she got to the point they were trying to make. They just want us to shut up, right? And they're blaming targets for their own targeting on the grounds that we just won't keep quiet, which of course is also untrue. And I know this for a fact. I tested it. When I first found out that the monsters hunting me were much worse than a group of cyber bullies, I did go quiet, at least at first. I was afraid. I stopped blogging, at least for that time, given that I assumed the targeting was due to my political views. At first, I thought it was all due to an argument online, and I did stop blogging initially. I told the sick animals behind this, who at the time, again, I had no clue were involved in a campaign this massive, that if they wanted me to shut up, they damn well better stop attacking. No one has any reason to stop talking about an attack that there is nothing they can do to stop. If there's nothing I can do to stop this, why in the hell should I be silent? But in the beginning, before I knew as much about this as I do now, I did test this. I shut up. I stopped talking. I stopped everything. But they did not stop attacking. Instead, they took the attacks up a few levels, showing me that there was nothing I could do to make this stop. It was because of their refusal to just stop attacking that I was forced to do more research into what the hell could possibly be going on. And that's when I discovered organized stalking. Now I'm going to campaign against this until my last breath. So back to the conversation. I reminded her that people who keep their head down and mouth shut are the reason tyrannical dictators take over and are able to get away with their crimes for so long. It's true that whistleblowers of people who speak out against crime in high places are often targeted, but it's also true that they are heroes, without whom no one would have freedom. They are the ones who fight for the freedom of humanity. On the other hand, those who know what is happening but refuse to speak up are responsible for the continued human rights atrocities committed by the psychopathic criminals. I did not say this in a nasty way, but she misunderstood or pretended to and started shouting that she's not a criminal and that I better not call her a criminal. Now, this is what the perpetrators do. When they know they have no other point to argue, they just start shouting, right? They get defensive. She then shouted, quote, "Just because I'm not an anarchist like you, that doesn't mean I'm a criminal," end quote. So first, I'm not an anarchist, but the whole room was looking at us by that point, particularly at me, and that is the point. They got the footage they wanted. And she was going to start this argument no matter what, because that's what she was going for, right? I tried to calm her down and repeated that I was not calling her a criminal, and that I was only saying that people who remain silent about crime allow crime to continue. Finally, she calmed down and stopped shouting at me. She then once again said that she knows all of this. She's known for years. Really? She knows what the PSYOP team told her, which is a pack of lies. That's as much as she knows, which amounts to absolutely nothing. I didn't say that, though I should have. And I was thinking the entire time, and I didn't say it out loud, but I should have, that, a lot of us are alive because of freedom fighters today. There are freedom fighters in this world. We owe our lives to them. And many, to their bravery. To their bravery. You can consider how many tyrants would have completely taken over and just, all of humanity if it weren't for the people who stood up against them. Many of us wouldn't be alive today if it was left up to the masses who keep their head down and their mouths shut. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes we do just have to keep quiet and walk on. I'm not saying that there is never a time for that, but in the end, when there are serious human rights violations going on, if no one stands up against these things, eventually these abuses become the norm and all of society will be subject to them. Folks, we owe our lives to the whistleblowers and to those who fight corruption. So isn't it a shame that there are people in this world who are helping to fight against the heroic men and women who they owe their freedom and their lives to? By the time I left, my head was spinning and the back of my legs ached. She really did get in a few good shoves with the wheelchair she was pushing. Nothing too serious, though. I'm okay. And, of course, it was all made to look like an accident. And anyway, this happened on Friday. So, Saturday, I did decide to get the phone turned back on after I spoke to them. So I decided that, so I went back. I went back to the shop. I had a few errands to run first. I took a cab to the phone store and decided to make one stop before I went in. As I crossed the street on the light, a car came out of nowhere, turned damn near into me as I walked, and once again, I had to jump out of the way. A white guy was driving it. I'm sure I've seen him before, and I believe, let's see. Again, I don't know his ethnicity. I don't know if he's Russian or Ukrainian. Seems like he might be. Anyway, I only got a quick glance at him, so I can't tell for sure. The license plate was something like CHIZM or another similar spelling. It might not have been exactly that. And so there were two other people standing across the street to where I was crossing. And so this car, I was crossing the street on the light. Nobody was going anywhere. I had the right of way to cross. This car came speeding around the other street. Okay, he turned right into me. So I ran, and there were two people standing, a man and a woman, across the street where I ended up. And the woman looked a little concerned, and the man was grinning and snickering as he looked at his cell phone. Of course, right? Fast forward. Last night, I unfortunately had to go out again. When I walked into the store, there was a guy standing by the very item I needed to get. He glanced at me, looked at his phone, grinned, and just stood there. This guy didn't look Russian or Ukrainian, though many do. And since he didn't speak, I don't know if he had an Eastern European accent. Again, many do. Though keep in mind the perpetrators come from all groups, all races, both genders, all ages, right? And the targets also come from all groups. Anyway, I walked on, and two very tall, bulky men came walking toward me. They both sneered at me as they passed and looked me down. I did not flinch. Instead, I walked on. And I was almost about to chuckle a little. I didn't, because these are two really tall, really, really built men who are gathering in a massive group to hunt, stalk, terrorize, a lone target that they don't believe can ever fight back, right? How pathetic is that? You're going to spend all this time hunting someone, go after a real threat, right? But they're too cowardly for that. They're too damn cowardly for that. So they just go after easy targets. Anyway, these two ended up following me into the checkout line before moving into another line closer to the exit and stalling there until I walked out, which means I had to walk past them in order to get out. At any rate, right before I got into line to check out, the guy I saw when I first walked in came walking toward me. This time he wasn't snickering. He had a stone-cold expression on his face as he stared me down. So, walking home, within feet of the building where I live, a short white male came walking toward me wearing the same sweatshirt that I had purchased for my mother. In fact, she had been wearing it that day. As he passed by, he broke out in hysterical laughter with the little earbuds, tapping on them and glancing at his phone and then back at me, and then he stopped once he had fully passed me. Again, it's just to show that they're there. They're always there. They're infiltrating everything, not just with our lives, but with our family. That's what they're doing so that we can never feel safe or secure anywhere. So anyway, this is just a small fraction of how these beasts attempt to intimidate, frighten, break down, and ultimately destroy the target on every level. First and foremost, psychological. Anyway, I think time is running out here on this. Storage is running out. So I'm going to end this here. I just wanted to get that out there. I would say I hope you all are okay, but that's kind of a dumb thing to say now, isn't it? Anyway, just stay cool. And don't let them provoke you into a violent outburst. Again, I have to keep reminding myself of that too. Right? They want that outburst so that they can catch it on film. Peace.